Hi, I'm Richard Hudson. It's my honor to represent North Carolina's 8th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. As you may know, a series of deep spending cuts to our military, known as the Sequester, is scheduled to go into effect this week. $85 billion in across-the-board cuts would occur this year alone, with another $1.1 trillion coming over the next decade. The amount of these cuts is minuscule. To put this in perspective, let's bring our numbers down to the family level. The current national debt is over $16.5 trillion. At the family income level, this means you would have incurred $165,000 in credit card debt. The $85 billion in cuts proposed in the sequester is equivalent to cutting $85 from your family budget. $85 barely puts a dent in your debt problem. As I've said many times during my campaign, we have to get our fiscal house in order. And the only way to do that is through cutting spending. There's nothing wrong with cutting spending by $1 trillion over the next 10 years. In fact, it's necessary. But the president's sequester is a reckless way to do it. Going back to the family analogy, it's definitely doable for a family to cut $85 from their budget this year. That minimal amount isn't really the problem here. The problem with the president and his sequester is that it wouldn't let the family decide where to cut that $85. The family may not be able to afford to cut $85 from the grocery budget or from their medical needs, like medicine, but they probably could cut it from their entertainment budget. This is a smarter way to limit the size of government than implementing draconian cuts to our military that threaten our national security. Our Air Force is currently operating at 50% readiness. Why would we reduce this even more? Why would we stop planes from flying and pilots from being trained when we could cut billions in waste that the American people will never feel? Let's start by cutting the United Nations by 10%. That will save us $4 billion. Next, we can cut $10 million in EPA grants from community organizers. Then let's cut the $27 million grant from the U.S. Agency for International Development for Moroccan pottery classes. Did you know the USDA spent $300,000 last year to promote the consumption of caviar? That needs to go. I could go on and on. The point is, while spending cuts are necessary, we should be going line by line and carefully carving out the waste. Last year, before I was a member of Congress, the Republican-led House voted twice to replace the president's sequester with targeted cuts based on real budget priorities. Unfortunately, the Democrat-run Senate never acted on either bill, and as the clock ticks down, the president has done nothing to prevent the gutting of our military. Our goal every day in Washington should be coming together to create jobs for hardworking Americans, reining in our out-of-control debt, and ensuring America maintains a strong national defense. I'm hopeful that we'll come together now to avoid the president's sequester, not with more tax increases, but with better, more responsible spending cuts that will put our budget on a path to balance in 10 years.